I'm Jordan Hatfield, and this is Faster Film Critic. Today on the show, we're talking Joker, Folie with Kolter and Chase Fugel. Folie is a 2024 musical directed by Todd Phillips. But hold your applause, Julie Andrew fans, because this ain't no Sound of Music. It is dark, twisted, demented, and stars Joaquin Phoenix, Lady Gaga, and Brendan Gleeson. Get in, we're going cinephiling. Faster Film Critic. How are you guys doing today?
Well, hey, fellas. Good. How are you guys doing?
I'm great. I'm excited to talk about this movie.
Dude, I'm so excited to talk about this movie. Can't wait. Let's start here. I know you guys are huge fans of the original Joker movie. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
Loved it.
What were your expectations going into Folie?
The trailer was interesting enough. I didn't, I'm not a big fan of musicals, but I don't know that I would call this a musical, but I was impressed enough with the first movie. I was looking forward to this. I was confident that it would be good.
Definitely impressed by the first movie and the trailer. The trailer for this movie was great.
I loved the first movie. I am really skeptical with sequels. So anytime a sequel is announced, I'm like, I don't know about that. I don't know that they should be doing a Joker 2. But when I saw the trailer, I was hooked. I got to admit. I was like, this looks great. I would say it's probably in my top 5 of most anticipated films of 2024. I was really excited.
I'd say top 3 for me.
Yeah, and largely because the first one was so good and unexpectedly good.
So let's dive right in. What did you guys think of this film?
Gosh, is that a loaded question right there?
Yeah, man, it really is.
Is it not?
It was an experience for sure. It was a wild ride.
Having watched the original Joker, Arthur Fleck is a character that is struggling with society, with his close network of friends and family, and most importantly with himself. And he's struggling to find out who he is. At the end of the movie, in the darkest way possible, he discovers who he is.
Yeah.
And then the credits roll. And I expected this film to pick up where the original Joker left off in the sense of character development. In the first film, Joker was a symbol of a movement. And in this film, I expected him to become the leader of that movement. That is what I fully expected.
That's what the trailer conveyed.
And that's what has happened in past Batman Joker movies.
Yeah.
That's not exactly what we got. We got a lot of singing and dancing.
Yeah. What did you think of that?
Did the musical approach to this film, was that a good idea?
As far as portraying the delusions of it, I don't think it was a bad idea. I don't like, I don't gravitate towards musicals, but I actually enjoyed both performances from Lady Gaga and Joaquin Phoenix in the moments where they did sing. I thought it was interesting.
I've heard a lot of stuff about the musical parts of the film. People love it. People hate it. I enjoyed it. The movie lacked a lot of substance throughout, and I think it helped bring in some of that emotion that the movie needed.
Yeah, well said.
I was skeptical about going into a Todd Phillips Joker musical.
Yeah, well, I mean, Todd Phillips himself is a comedy director, and he's doing these Joker movies.
Exactly. I mean, that's very true. Headed into Joker, dark was not on anywhere in his filmography, and he pulled it off brilliantly. But I did still go in skeptical, and then about halfway through it, I realized the idea of making this a musical is actually brilliant. Like, it actually works really well in concept. But I gotta say, I felt like Todd Phillips dropped the ball as far as execution. There are scenes where there's music involved that I absolutely loved, and conceptually, he sold me. Yeah. I was on board.
Yeah.
But as far as actually presenting me with a final product, I don't know that it worked so well.
I don't know that he actually wanted to even make this movie. Had it been up to him, I think he would have. The Joker had a definitive arc, a definitive ending.
Yeah.
You were left as an audience member kind of wondering what happened, what didn't really happen, how much of this was in Arthur's head. And I mean, damn well after it made the kind of money that it made, the studio was like, you got to do another one. We're going to do this with you. We're going to do this without you. And here's $200 million to make the sequel. And I think he's not making another Joker movie. And I don't think he really wanted to make this one. And I'm not sure how you guys feel about this, but the majority of the movie was spent kind of deconstructing Arthur as a character, Arthur as either character, either himself or the Joker, and just being kind of drugged through the mud and kicked around, which I feel like we had seen enough in the first film. But the time this ended, I just felt sad, kind of drained, and just sort of sick to my stomach.
Yeah,
which convinces
such
me
a heavy film.
Yeah, there was really no need for this movie to have been made in the first place.
I also really like how the first one ended with such ambiguity.
Yes.
Yeah.
You didn't know,
Yeah.
like, to be able to walk away and talk to your friends and argue about what was real and what wasn't real and what happened. You know, a lot of people want every plot detail to be spelled out for them, and I am definitely not one of those people.
Me neither.
I
Yeah.
love the ambiguity here in Joker 1.
What do you guys think Lady Gaga added to this movie?
I want to say that Lady Gaga was perfectly cast.
She gave an amazing performance
She
for
did,
sure.
man.
I thought her performance was incredible.
Yeah.
You know, of course, Joaquin Phoenix was also incredible. Like, if I talk about the gripes of this film, it's more in the writing and it's not in the performances. The performances here throughout, top notch.
Both Joker
awe-inspiring.
movies, amazing performances, amazing cinematography, amazing music, but
Yes.
As far as Lady Gaga is concerned, when she first shows up in the film and she puts the gun to her head, the finger
Yeah.
gun, and pulls the trigger, I thought immediately there is no way that she could have known that, right? Sophie Dumond in the first film, played by Zazie Beetz, the fictional girlfriend that Arthur Fleck had, she did that. So when Lee Quinzel did it in Folie, Deux, I thought that is the signal that this is another fictional character inside Arthur's head.
Right.
But the rest of the film didn't play out that way.
yeah.
And so she clearly, Lee Quinzel wasn't a fictional character. She was a real character. Her performance was amazing. The writing around her performance, I didn't love.
I didn't either. In fact, I would have liked to have seen more of her head. I kind of, after seeing it, dude, that's a tough character to kind of write convincingly anyway. And Lady Gaga played her to a T, and she was kind of a perfect complement to the way Joaquin approached his character as Arthur Fleck / Joker. I would have rather seen a fully formed love story a la Bonnie and Clyde with Joker and Lee somehow getting out of prison.
Yes.
You know,
That's what I was hoping for.
Yeah, man, that would have been really good because they were so good. They had great chemistry as a couple. She was convincingly disturbed, and I was really impressed with what she did. And I wanted to see more of that. I know they shot more of it. You can see evidence of it in the trailers. Don't know what happened to that version. Would love to see it.
You know, we were talking Kolter. We were talking about Joker 1 at one point, and you mentioned that some of the subtleties that Joaquin Phoenix brings to the Joker was amazing, and you specifically referenced a look in his eye. As I was watching this film, there was a scene early on where they zoomed in to Lee Quinzel's character, and Lady Gaga had a look in her eye, and it totally reminded me of what you had said about Joaquin Phoenix, and I just thought, she nailed it. How did she do that? She nailed it. I think you're right. I think a story that encompassed more of a love connection between the two of them and maybe even focused more on Lee Quinzel and less on Arthur Fleck.
Yeah.
Because we got so much of Arthur Fleck in the first one, kind of a transition story, so she becomes more of the main character. That could have really worked.
I love the way that it showed her character was in love with Joker, not Arthur Fleck.
Yes. Yeah.
The one scene in particular, which I thought was great, where she pulls out the makeup.
Yeah, that was a great scene. You're right. Speaking of the music, Oh, When the Saints Go Marching In was a big part of this film. I failed to pick up the connection there. Does anyone know why that?
I just figured it was some, just jail song that they picked up and were singing. I don't know.
It left me kind of wondering because it plays early, which I didn't really pick up on, but then it played again and again and again throughout the film, and I left wondering, am I missing something with this song? Are they trying to communicate something that I'm just not picking up?
Yeah, if you missed it, so did I. Yeah, I don't know.
Probably something there, but I didn't get it either. Not on one watch. We should talk about the very, very beginning.
The cartoon.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was so cool the way that they did that. That made me very excited for the movie.
What'd you love about it?
I loved how different it was, how unexpected it was, almost like the character of Joker himself. Like I went into the movie and it starts with this old-timey Tom and Jerry-esque cartoon.
Part of me thought, you know how Disney will do little shorts before their movies?
Yeah.
Part of me thought it was a little short. It wasn't until the film actually started that I realized, oh, wait, that is part of this movie.
Yeah, maybe, a little bit of foreshadowing with the internal struggles he experiences between, that dichotomy between him and Joker, who's really in charge, who does he want to be in charge, kind of thing. That was interesting.
Really set that whole thing up. Because in the first movie, it wasn't so much, does he have multiple personality disorder? Like, that wasn't really a question. It was just like, this guy is crazy, and everybody around him is driving him crazy. But this movie, it sets it up asking the question at the very start, is it split personalities? Which is a theme throughout the whole movie. Question you're always asking yourself.
One thing about Arthur's character that really let me down in this film was I felt like I didn't know anything more about him than I did when the film started. The movie brings him in, and he's almost a celebrity.
Yeah.
Rather than the symbol of a movement. He's a celebrity. People are cheering for him, and throughout the whole movie, the audience is cheering for him in really weird ways. Society is cheering for him in ways that feel inappropriate and unrealistic. I was left questioning, what's going on here? There's nothing new to Arthur Fleck. Society seems to love him, and everyone seems to want him to get off the hook. What's happening here with the storyline of Arthur? And I could never find it. I could never grasp it.
Yeah, it goes back to kind of what we were talking about a minute ago. Instead of taking this character who had a great arc in the first movie and kind of continuing to evolve him, they choose to go the other way, where they kind of start to strip him down and deconstruct him and take him back to this kind of pitiful, confidence-lacking person who completely seems to have forgotten the strength that he discovered within himself in the first movie. And, you could say that was written in, he was heavily medicated during the first part of this. Obviously, he's incarcerated now. I just don't think that's as interesting a choice as it could have been I don't think it's as fun or entertaining as it would be if we saw Arthur picking up where he left off, to your point, in that first movie. Maybe he's got a following in prison. Maybe he uses that to his advantage to be able to get out and wreak some havoc before he gets caught again at the end, whatever it might be. It just kind of comes down to weird choices.
I was hoping to see his character evolve, and I got the opposite. He took so many steps back as a character.
Yeah, in the climax of the movie, it's hard to argue this is the climax, but there's the courtroom scene, which is towards the end, and everything's kind of been building. And he finally lets loose, and he's telling the people in the courtroom how he feels, and it is the exact same grievance he had in the first film. Again, I expected Arthur to end up in prison, a jailbreak. He meets Lee Quinzel. They develop some sort of romantic relationship on the outside. They become a leader of a movement that leads to a crime action film in many ways. And I expected it to be as dark as the first one and as heavy as the first one, but I expected Arthur to embrace his true self, which is full of violence and vitriol and hatred and revenge. And I could hear someone saying, well, we've seen that film. We've seen that film hundreds of times. And so I have to give it to Todd Phillips for trying to do something new. A lot of people are saying this film was audacious, right? It was a big swing. Absolutely, I'll give him that. Yeah. And I think directors should continually be taking their ideas in new directions and swinging for the fences. And I think he deserves credit for that here. But at the end of the day, I didn't know anything more about Arthur Fleck. I was confused by Lady Gaga's character, Lee Quinzel. I didn't understand how she had such free access to the prison.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, she could come and go. Yeah. She set the place on fire, and they just let her walk out the door. There was no consequence. And again, was she part of his head? I don't know, but it definitely didn't seem like it.
I mean, they wouldn't have been able to break out if there wasn't that fire.
Yeah. I mean, how can you say she was? But in so many parts of the film, it seems like she was.
Yeah, it seems like an obvious setup to depict his delusion, and then it turns out I was half expecting when he finds her on this, the famous stairway towards the end of the movie, that she is going to be like, "Who are you?" Even had that happen, I would have been disappointed too. It's too similar to the scene with Zazie Beetz in the first movie when she's like, "You're Arthur, right?" When he's in her house unexpectedly, and you're led to believe they have some kind of relationship before that revelation.
Do you want to know something that I picked up on this film that I didn't pick up on in the original that I thought was really cool?
Yeah.
What was it?
The name of the comedy club that Arthur Fleck performs in the first one, and then here there was a lot of dancing and performance for the crowd. The name of that comedy club was Pogo Comedy Club. For all of our true crime fans out there,
right,
that was the stage name of John Wayne Gacy.
Yeah.
He was Pogo
wow.
the Clown.
That's actually sick. I thought you were going to.
It is sick in
bring
multiple
up,
ways.
Yeah.
It's very sick.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's cool. A question for both of you guys real quick. I think there are some sequels that come out that actually kind of ruin the rewatchability of the movies that come before them because you ultimately know what happens to those characters or storylines. And this may be a bad comparison, but I liked Force Awakens well enough. It was obvious. It was obviously a retread of A New Hope. But then what came after, just made me not care about any of them. I knew where the story was going. Do you guys feel the same about this movie? Does this kind of diminish the rewatchability or the impact that the first Joker movie had because of what happens in this movie?
Man, that is such a great question.
Gosh, it's hard to say. I love the first Joker so much. I think I could still watch it and separate it from this one.
I definitely would maintain that the first Joker is a 5-star film. I think it's a masterpiece. However, there is a scene in the first Joker where Arthur shoots 3 young businessmen on a train, and his initial reaction is fear. And he runs from the train and he looks for a place to hide. And he finds a bathroom, and he's hiding in that bathroom. As he stops for a second to contemplate what he's done, a fire is lit inside of him. And for the first time in his life, he feels like he's alive. And it is a really, really dark moment in the film. But Arthur, in this moment, he starts dancing. And it is ugly, and it is twisted, and it is dark, but there is something about it that is also beautiful. And I have no doubt that that was one of the most memorable scenes of the film for most people who saw the original Joker. In Folie, Deux, Todd Phillips tries to tap into that. And there are multiple scenes in this film where Joaquin Phoenix dances in the same way, but it lacks all of the same emotional intensity.
It does.
And in that way, Kolter, you are absolutely right. It detracts from that scene in the original Joker. It removes the emotional weight of it. So yeah, in some sense, I think you're right. I think it does hurt the original film.
What was the most impactful scene for you guys in this one?
For me, it was right after he finished his musical number in the courtroom, The Joker Is Me. And he goes back to his cell, and he's talking to Lee for just a few minutes. It's like a really brief conversation. And he inhales from his cigarette, and he blows it out in Lee's face, and she sucks it from him into her mouth. And it was like she was sucking the soul from Arthur.
Ooh.
Like it looked like she was sucking his soul, and I loved that scene.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah,
It was really cool.
I didn't even think about that. That's great.
I didn't think about that either. That's really cool. There are lots of scenes in this movie that I love. So many sequences in this film are just brilliant. And to your point, same thing within the original Joker. Pretty much every time Arthur Fleck is smoking, I'm just captivated by the beauty of the scene.
I know, I love it.
Smoking is ugly. The way he portrays that on film, that ugliness, just fits the feeling of this film
Works
to
so
such
well.
a cool degree. I love it. So, yeah, that's really cool. My favorite scene, at least the scene that's most memorable to me, is when Arthur Fleck walks back into the common room in the jail, and they announce on TV that they're seeking the death penalty. The district attorney is seeking the death penalty. And everyone's kind of looking at him like, how do you feel about this? He breaks out in song.
Right.
And the song is one of happiness.
Yeah.
And it was really the first song of the film, and it was so jarring. It totally caught me off guard. And then as he dances around the room and he's singing in happiness about how he's finally going to be free and finally going to be happy, his character moves back around to where he started, and you realize the whole song and dance was in his head.
Yeah.
And he kind of chuckles, and someone's like, "What are you laughing at?" And he's like, "You wouldn't get it." This is what I mean by the concept of the musical worked so well for me, right? Because that scene, I wanted to just stand up and applaud. I just thought that scene was so good at portraying someone who is so twisted. I loved it. That was my favorite scene.
Yeah, man. And also,
the music helps so much to bring the emotion to the scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I was
good.
happy with him, man. The dude's falling in love. You're feeling it along with him. It was like, he doesn't give a crap about this stuff anymore because he's got somebody now, and that's cool. For me, when Gary Puddles, played by Lee Gill, comes into the courtroom, sits down, and the dude is terrified. You're already just feeling horrible for him, and then Joker's at this point has become his own lawyer. He fired his lawyer, and he's representing himself, and he's doing this whole like Southern. Now tell me, so on the night of whatever it was, like it was this total like he's just up there making a jackass of himself and enjoying it. And dude, Gary's traumatized. He's sitting in the witness stand, and he's kind of he's on a phone book. And he's kind of pleading. He's pleading with Arthur, like, dude, why are you doing this? Why are you putting me through this? Why are you asking me these questions? And then it kind of builds and builds and builds, and Joker's not making a good case for himself. And at the end, Gary drops this line. He goes, how could you have done this to me? You were the only person who didn't make fun of me. These were the only two people in Joker's world that were genuinely nice to each other. It goes back to that first scene, the scene in the first Joker where Gary is witness to one of Joker's murders his friend right in front of him, and then lets him go, gives him a kiss on the forehead, and says, "You know what? Get out of here, man. You were always nice to me." For two people to feel like maybe they were the only two people in each other's lives that were nice to each other, to have been completely traumatized by the Joker's actions, I was really moved by that, man, and I felt like that was the sobering event that caused him to want to shed this persona at the end. So that was what it was for me.
Yeah, that was a tough part to watch.
It was,
right
man.
At the end of that.
It was a great scene, and I think it portrayed so strongly that violence hurts everyone around you and not just the victim of the act.
Right.
Yeah.
He said the whole time to Gary, dude, I love you. I'm not going to hurt you. Like, you and I are friends.
Right.
And yet it still cut him so deep. It hurt him so severely. And so, yeah, that was a beautiful scene in a heavy, sad way, for sure.
And the movie had so many of those scenes where it's so good by itself.
Oh, yeah.
And then you throw it in with the rest of the movie, and it feels almost pointless.
Fragments of brilliance.
I'm not going to lie. Talking about this with you guys kind of makes me want to go back and watch it again.
Yeah, same, man. It's funny. I didn't hate it.
No, I didn't hate it either.
I walked out feeling disgusted and kind of sad and down in the dumps.
It wasn't nearly as heavy as the first one.
No.
Yeah, but it was heavy in a different way. There was something kind of, the movie, obviously it was a dark journey, the first movie, but this was I was just kind of left a little, strange to say it, I was left a little heartbroken at the end. I was like, why this choice? Why do this to him after all he's been through? Why do you think people want to see that? Was kind of what I was left with.
The very end scene, a cellmate attacks Arthur Fleck, and then he carves a smile in his face. I don't think it's subtle that this character moves on to become the Joker in Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight, Heath Ledger's Joker.
Yeah.
With the scars on his face.
Did this work for you?
No.
Yeah, definitely not.
No. Didn't
I
work for
hated
me
it.
either.
The timeline's a little off. I think it was absolutely an intended homage. I think I agree wholeheartedly with that. But there's that really obvious foreshadowing earlier on when you see the guy in the back of the room. He's going, I was like, oh God. It's obviously this guy's going to do something bad to somebody in there. It's, kind of being beaten over our heads. The question is why, and
who knows?
Who cares? I don't know what he gives that. I would have much rather seen Joaquin Phoenix have a different arc in this movie, and him as the Joker sitting in an electric chair, about to be, if they were going to do that with his character, kill him off, and just laughing maniacally, perhaps in a new way we haven't seen him laugh, and right before they throw the switch, just it looks like that's exactly where he wants to be, and he's having a ball doing it, and then boom, they throw the switch and fry him. That would have been at least.
That would have been
more satisfying.
Agreed. So can we step into rumor category here for a second?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
A couple years ago, Matt Reeves directed The Batman, starring Robert Pattinson. And in that film, there's a cameo by Barry Keoghan. And he is credited on IMDb as unseen Arkham prisoner. Okay, he's got a very, very small role in that. The rumor is that he has joined Batman 2 and he will play another iteration of the Joker. I don't know that this is true. This is just rumor. But what's your thought of Barry Keoghan playing the Joker?
Have you guys seen that scene?
Yes,
Yeah.
but it's been a little while.
Dude's a great actor.
He's really great.
He's a phenomenal actor.
Is he a great Joker, though?
Yeah. You do get a sense that he's much more intelligent and intentful in that portrayal of him. I mean, Batman's going to him for intel in that scene. And there's a hint of maliciousness to Barry's portrayal of Joker that I haven't seen. He's a lot uglier. I think that lends itself well to kind of a shock value. Those are my initial thoughts.
Barry Keoghan is so good at playing a character who is very unintelligent. In The Banshees of Inisherin, by the way, I love that film.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So good.
He's amazing. In Saltburn, his character is amazing.
But Killing of a Sacred Deer, his performance in this movie is so great. He appears unintelligent, but his motives are like, is he insane? Like, what are his thoughts behind every action? That makes me think that he'll be a great Joker.
Let me tell you what I'm not going to do. Jack Nicholson was the Joker of my youth, and when Christopher Nolan announced that he was doing the Batman Dark Knight and he was bringing in Heath Ledger, I thought Heath Ledger was doomed to fail because Jack Nicholson was the Joker, and Heath Ledger nailed it, and he surpassed Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
Then, when Todd Phillips announced Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker, I thought, this is going to be terrible. This is not going to work. Heath Ledger is the Joker. And Joaquin Phoenix was masterful. And so I have learned from my mistakes, and I will reserve all judgment. If Barry Keoghan is the Joker, I will go in with a clean slate, and I will let his performance speak for itself, and then I will make a judgment. So bring it on. If Barry Keoghan's the new Joker, I can't wait to see it.
Me too.
Yeah. Heath Ledger, the rom-com guy. Woo, this is going to suck. Yeah, he was great. He was great.
10 Things I Hate About You.
Yeah, exactly, man.
Let's rate it.
I give this film 3.5.
3.5 stars.
Not bad, not great.
Better than average.
Yeah, better than average.
I'm going to give it a 3. I thought it was it's a well-done movie. I didn't hate it. I just didn't like the way it made me feel. There were many different choices that could have been made that weren't.
So I'm going to come in at a 2.5. So much about this film I loved. Individual scenes, the performances, the cinematography, the music I loved. But the story fell so flat. To end a 2-hour movie and not know anything more about the main character than you did going in before is a huge problem for me. That hurts the film in a big way. I'm going to give it a 2.5. That means collectively we rated it a 3. This is a good film, a film that is worthy of your time. Go and see Joker Folie à Deux and let us know what you think.
Well, hey, good hanging with you guys, and thank you to everybody out there who listened to this. If you enjoyed this movie, or if you did not enjoy this movie and want to continue to explore themes like urban decay, isolation, moral ambiguity, or the general descent into madness, I would definitely recommend Martin Scorsese's 1976 film Taxi Driver. It is one of the best examples of a film that explores these themes and a personal favorite.
Thank you for listening to Faster Film Critic, and please join us next week when we discuss Saturday Night, an upcoming comedy directed by Jason Reitman. You can also follow us on Letterboxd and Cinetrack. You can email us at fasterfilmcritic@gmail.com. Hit us up if you have any questions, comments, feedback, or review requests. And please, share this episode with your movie-loving friends.